So, filming this video because I've had another download come through, and I'll probably do a longer video, maybe on YouTube. I don't know, we'll see how long this is when I channel it, but something that just occurred to me because I woke up and had to remind myself not to trust my morning mood. I felt like I had slipped into an old identity, right? And my jam is identity shifting in order to manifest what it is that you want, but also literally the most healing I've ever experienced in my life has come from discovering identity shifting and manifestation, because it requires changing how you show up in the world, the thoughts that you think, how you manage your emotions, the level of consciousness that you're engaging with, the level of responsibility that you take in your life. All of that needs to change and be improved when we want to manifest something different in our life. So that is why I found it so healing. And I am trained as a therapist, and I am also trained as a coach. Done a lot of training in my life, and I've done therapy, and I've been the person who's practicing it as well. And that is all very well and good and totally valid and helpful for many people. And I have found this stuff to be the most helpful for me personally. So, when I woke up this morning, I was feeling certain emotions that, even though I can preach and say, don't put your emotions away and we must turn and face them with compassion and curiosity. Like, yeah, okay. Yes, that's what we want to do. But when you're first experiencing what we would deem a negative emotion, that's probably not your first response. That's a change in consciousness and a change in behavior and how you manage your emotions, which when you engage with it in that caring, compassionate, and curious way, that's an indication of the identity shift. So yes, I'm capable of doing that. But I woke up feeling not great and was having trouble doing the process. And so I started to doubt the identity and felt like I was slipping into the old one and all this stuff. Now, the reality is that as soon as you catch it, as soon as you notice it, even if you're not changing it, you're not in the old identity. You have shifted. You're just practicing embodying it more and more, and then hopefully moving to the next level, the even better and more devoted identity, the one who is even more devoted to getting what it is that you want. So in recognizing this morning and feeling what I was feeling, I realized just now, a couple hours later, that when you feel really uncomfortable, but in a way that feels like stagnation rather than sadness or depression, this is an indication to me that you have changed your self-concept. When I say identity shifting, I mean changing how you perceive yourself and your self-concept, which is essential, in my opinion, to changing your life. You can take practical steps that push the needle forward and make changes in your life while still identifying with an old version of you, if you perceive yourself to be that version. It just makes manifesting or creating a new life for yourself, or an improved life for yourself, it's a much slower process when you don't perceive yourself as different, as more capable. So there's a slow way to do things, there's a faster way to do things, and I prefer efficiency, I guess, but you don't get to skip steps. You don't get to skip steps. You still have to be practicing it every day, but practicing the new behaviors tends to expedite whatever it is that you're trying to manifest or create in your life, if you actually have a belief in the result being possible, that you're capable of it, that it will be easier for you. But if you're identifying with an old identity and perceive yourself in a different way, maybe in a more negative light, you will find that the process of changing your life feels like a grind. It feels really challenging. It doesn't mean that the new self won't also be experiencing challenges and having to grind for some things, but it certainly comes faster and with more ease when you have the trust and the faith that things are going to work out for you. And that's a mindset shift of the new identity versus the old one that is caught in struggle and suffering and maybe still spiraling in, trauma and old stories. And that's totally valid. I am not here to bypass that. But you can see how the new identity is someone who hasn't pushed that away, but instead they've done the work to integrate it and heal from it. And then they are going to perceive themselves as more capable, and they're going to snap out of it much faster and start to shift back towards the steps that need to be taken for your manifestation. And we'll talk about energetics another day, but that's very important too. So when you start to feel the discomfort, and it's not looking like just sadness, depression, apathy, all of that, this is an indication. So if instead you're feeling frustration, maybe your inner critic is really running its mouth, maybe you're feeling some anxiety, this to me indicates that you really have shifted your self-concept or your identity, but it's actually on a subconscious level, which is what we want, because the subconscious is running our behavior and it's running our mindset. It's like when we're on autopilot, it's the subconscious, because it's more efficient that way. If you had to think about every single decision that you make in a day, talk about decision fatigue. Like, it would be impossible for your brain and body to function if you had to be conscious of everything all the time and be consciously making decisions. But the thing is, because the unconscious is facilitating, I don't know the exact stats, but it's somewhere between like 80 and 90% of your life and your behavior and what you're doing. It's got a lot of power. So the good news is that if you're feeling this anxiety and frustration about what you're doing and feeling like you're not doing the right thing, and it's annoying you, or it's frustrating you that you don't have the outcome that you want, that you've been envisioning for your life, the things you want to make manifest, to me, that's a pretty strong indication that subconsciously you actually did shift your identity. You have a self-perception internally that has basically changed. It's shifted. You've succeeded in that. But we can feel the opposite, because if we are still engaging in these older habits or things that aren't necessarily moving us towards the goals or the lifestyle that we want, we can think that we've shifted into an old identity. But that was a version of you that maybe got a bit annoyed with where you're at in life, but it kept engaging in the behaviors. So, like, without being tremendously annoyed, like, you being a couch potato seemed fairly satisfactory. You were sad that you weren't in a different place in your life, but you still engaged in the activity. Now, if you are feeling anxious about it when you're not doing what it is that you should be doing, when you feel kind of icky when you don't get up and go for that walk or do yoga or go to the gym, and you feel that guilt or frustration with yourself, if you feel annoyed or worried when you haven't taken strides in your business or towards studying for whatever it is you're doing in school, practicing the instrument, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, when you feel that anxiety about it rather than apathy, excuse me, confirmation burps. There's a lot of burping that happens when you're channeling something. This is an indication that you're experiencing something called internal dissonance. That internal conflict or that dissonance is the indication that your identity is different. It is of a person who actively wants to make the changes and has been taking those steps, even if it's only just been for a little while. When you slip into the old behaviors, your bad feelings, bad being relative, but the uncomfortable feelings are really going to ramp up, because you recognize now when you're not acting or thinking in alignment. Now, emotions occur at any level, at any consciousness. We do not bypass our emotions. So you're going to experience the full spectrum of emotions, no matter what version of yourself you're showing up as. Those different selves handle their emotions differently. And we'll talk about that another time. But this video is about communicating to you that if you are starting to feel frustrated with yourself and your life, if you are feeling annoyed that things aren't moving forward, if you are feeling bad when you're not taking the steps or fulfilling the promises that you made to yourself, this is because the new identity of the person who has what it is that you want or can have it is someone who requires self-trust. And when you break self-trust, which, like, I'm guilty of this too, I'm human just like you, A little bit of a Martian, I think, too. But it's normal to feel that. And I want you to take that as an indication that you have made the shift internally, and you're starting now, maybe through watching this video, to bring that realization into your consciousness. Your unconscious is the part that's getting annoyed when you're going back into autopilot, right? And it's becoming conscious. And then you recognize, why do I feel crummy like this when I'm doing something that used to be soothing, when it used to be something that helped me unplug from the stress? Why does the junk food not satisfy in the same way? It might still taste the same, but instead of feeling satisfied afterwards, we just feel the guilt. A lot of people think they chalk this up to, oh, I'll never change. They attribute it to, this is the version of me that I don't like because it's doing that old behavior. And I'm telling you right now that that is not true. It's almost the opposite. I'm going to hazard to guess or hypothesize that if it's not hitting the same way that it used to, like, for example, I love movies. I used to do film studies way back in my undergrad. I loved it. I still love movies, but I rarely watch them. It's not that I don't like them anymore. It's that I get a feeling of impatience and a little bit of anxiety most of the time, because I personally feel that I don't want to use the word should, but that I want to be doing other things that feel more proactive. Does this mean that we should never watch movies again? No. Totally go for it. I mean, I will watch Spice World as many times as I want. It's the best movie ever. But controversial opinion, hot take. Spice World, best movie ever. It's actually very well written. It's silly, but it's got a good flow. Anyways. And they tie up the loose ends at the end, so I like it. So this is to remind you that if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling frustrated with where you're at, if you're feeling annoyed with yourself, if you're feeling guilty when you're engaging in certain habits that used to be very soothing, yeah, you've shifted. You've shifted your identity. You have changed as a person deep within you. And now anything that is not in alignment with the person that you want to be, that you are, and maybe you haven't realized that you shifted into, or this version, it's going to cause dissonance. It's going to feel uncomfortable. We're going to experience that guilt, and we might get frustrated. And that inner critic is really going to rear its head when that happens. So I invite you, if you want to journal about it, go for it. But reflect on what behaviors, patterns, habits are starting to make you feel really uncomfortable, or the inner critic is really coming up when you're doing it and you're getting really down on yourself. That'll be an indication to you that you've shifted in a direction internally, in terms of your identity, in the direction that you want to go. Now it's about actually serving that version of you and moving through your behaviors, through your choices, through your actions, through your mindset, which your mind is so powerful. I used to hate cognitive behavioral therapy because I'm a lady with, or I was a kid with big emotions. I still have big emotions, but I've learned to manage my emotions much better. Thank goodness. But I didn't like cognitive behavioral therapy. I thought it was a bypass or a cop out, or it was just, robotic or whatever. But it's not. Your thoughts, your mindset, the way that you view the world around you has such a tremendous impact on your behavior. So whether or not you go down the route of cognitive behavioral therapy, or if you just do mindset work, which is what I prefer anyways, and then using neuroscience, I'm obsessed with neuroscience right now. It is the ticket to changing your life, I promise you. You can journal on this. You can look at what behaviors are really, I know you hear it all the time, but like, they're not serving you anymore. But like, really, are they moving the needle forward towards the future that you want for yourself? Have you envisioned a new future? That's a topic for another video. If you haven't allowed yourself permission to even imagine something different, there's a self-worth issue, because we need to feel worthy enough to allow ourselves to imagine something different. Like, that's very fundamental. It's the first step. So if you need help with that, you can let me know. But so if you're frustrated, don't shame yourself for feeling frustrated. If you're feeling like you're stuck, don't shame yourself for being stuck or perceiving yourself as stuck. We're rarely actually stuck. When the inner critic is rearing its head, I want you to take that as an indication that you have changed, you are changing, you're growing, you're improving, all of that good stuff that you want. The inner critic is an indication that when you're acting out of alignment, first of all, we need self-compassion. Like, that is also the ticket to change. It's not a cop-out. And I want you to recognize that the inner critic it's showing you where you are not acting or thinking in alignment with who it is you are becoming, and it is not thinking or acting or making choices in devotion to your future, the future that you want. I personally do believe, the more I get into the quantum physics stuff, which is fascinating, I'm starting to get very curious about something called the many worlds theory or the multiverse, which sounds super duper woo woo, but like, go check it out on YouTube. I couldn't possibly explain it, but there's science behind it. It's so interesting. And I have some personal experiences that I will probably share at some point that for me really are a confirmation that that is one way that the universe could exist. It's like really interesting stuff. But there are different outcomes. When you want to manifest something, you need to be able to allow yourself to dream bigger, and then using different practices. I will make a course, I will teach a program, whatever, to actually train your brain and your nervous system to understand that that future is safe and it's possible for you by doing very, very vivid imaginal acts or like visualization processes. I love doing that with people. Probably do a workshop where I guide folks through it. And there are different outcomes. If you can imagine a different outcome, you could achieve a different outcome, right? And if you subscribe to the many worlds theory, this is the idea that they're infinite. Like, we don't understand how big infinite is. Like, it's infinite universes or parallel universes that exist and split every time we make a decision. And if you buy into that, if you subscribe to it, this would suggest that there are infinite outcomes and endings to your choose your own adventure story as you navigate the movie or the story that, we exist on one page, or we exist on on one still in the film strip. But we could perceive it as if the story is already written. But I believe that we have free will, so this is like a choose your own adventure. Or when you really start to get into personal empowerment, it's like choosing the director's cut, and you are the director, right? There's more footage, there's commentary, there's so much more to it than just the regular version that you would see in the theater. So anyways, I hope this is helpful. I hope it encourages you. If you've got questions about it, you can reach out to me. I'm fascinated by this stuff, but my phone is telling me that I have no storage, so I'm gonna stop. Love you lots. Bye.